Good afternoon, children. Today we are going to study the first module of your literature. That's a poem I have taken. It's a very short, very beautiful poem that talks about the reality of life. Before we begin, let's talk about a question, and that is, what is inevitable? Inevitable means what cannot be avoided. Take your time to think. So the two things, first is change. Change is the only constant thing. And second is death. Death is inevitable. It cannot be avoided. Whosoever has born on earth will die one day. So we all come with an expiry date. And that is the ultimate truth of life also. Something to think about here. A question to all of you, what is the term used for the fear of death? Wondering about it? Okay, so that is called thanatophobia, with the spelling Thanatophobia, thanatophobia. And why we are discussing it? Because the theme of the poem that we are going to discuss today is the fear of death. Not only the fear of death, the fear of separation, the fear of loss of somebody who has been so close all these years. And the mother is the one who is close to the child's heart. She is the one who sacrifices everything in her life to ensure that the child gets it all. So this fear of death that has been hovering in the mind of the poetess Kamala Das is the main theme of the poem. So here we begin with what is the mood of the writer, what's the mood of the poet while she has penned down this poem. See, this fear of separation of mother, it has already been there. It's with us. It lives with us always. What if the day when our mother, she would leave us? And this is one truth that we have to live with. We discuss about Kamala Das first. Kamala Das, you cannot actually call her a feminist, but she has written a lot about women. She has written a lot about their suffering, a lot about the human relationships. So she has covered it all in her writings, be it her novels, be it her poems, her verses. She had tried to make a connect with the common people, and that is how we can relate with her writings very well. Now this poem, My Mother at 66, this has its own originality. The subtleties of the human relationship, and specifically the relationship of a daughter and a mother, that has been the main theme of the poem, and how beautifully she has weaved in that we will go around. We discuss about few of the points about Kamala Das. So what all you can find in her writing is, number one, originality. Originality, it doesn't mean that's the opposite of plagiarism. Originality in the way that you can relate with her very well. She had talked about the ground reality. She had talked about the real pains of life, the real sufferings of life. Second thing is, she has talked about the subtleties of human nature in a very versatile way. She tried to play around the words in such a way that you can relate it to very well. And the third thing is, we find the indigenous flavor. She is rooted in her writings very well. Then the complexities of human nature and relationship that I have already talked about. Now particularly this poem, My Mother at 66, the poet, she has seen her mother inching towards her end. She is getting old and she's not able to take that fact. She wanted to brush aside that thought, but she was just not able to. Let's begin. And we begin with the words to remember here, wherein there are few words that you will be reading while I discuss the poem to you. So the first is thanatophobia. We have already discussed it. That means the fear of death, the inevitable end of human life and all the creature as well. The second word is tautology. It seems to pretty difficult, but the meaning is so simple. That means saying the same thing twice or more than twice, again and again, just to let emphasis, an assertion that somebody established by using the same word again and again. The third word is doze. That means asleep. The next is spilling. Spilling here means joyously rushing out, moving out from a place to another. The next one is van, that means ashen. The next one is familiar ache. Familiar means similar, the same kind of, that has already been there and it has been repeated then again. And the next one is poignant. Poignant means touching, saddening, that is emotionally affecting you in one or the other way. Now let's begin with the poem. See, this poem has been written in blank verse. Blank verse, let me explain it to you first before we move to the word-to-word explanation of the poem. Blank verse, it has been created by, it is originally of Shakespeare, William Shakespeare, the father of English literature. So there is no rhyming scheme that the lines follow. And particularly we talk about my mother at 66, herein a single thought that has been interspersed in the poem, and it's a single sentence. The whole of the poem is a single sentence and it has been punctuated by commas. So you can see that power of punctuation. Whole of it, one sentence, and has been punctuated. So to ease of explaining, I'll just divide it further for you. We take up the first two lines. Driving from my parents' home to Cochin last Friday. Now these two lines, they tell us very clearly where the setting of the poem is. The poetess, she is driving along with the mother. She has been there at her parents' home and now she is going back. She is moving to the Cochin airport and she came last Friday. Now particularly last Friday, what it is symbolic of, it's not only the day that she talked about, she also at the same time comparing, she is talking about that as the Friday has gone, the same way the youth of her mother, it has gone already. It will never come back. So the time and the youth, both things, they will never come back. That's what last Friday signifies. So it's a morning time and she looked at her mother while she says, I saw my mother beside me. Doze, she was asleep, open mouthed, her face ashen like that of a corpse. And herein she compared the face of her mother with the face of a dead body. So she has been withered and that youth, it has gone. She is agonized by the fact that her mother is inching towards death each day, each moment, and this thought is killing her inside. She realized that pain, that she was as old as she looked, but soon put that thought away. So it's a human nature. We seek for happiness always. And in this quest of finding happiness, we forget that like all other emotions, it's temporary, it's not permanent. So happiness is not something that you can create on. You have to live with the reality. But yes, we at the time to brush away our emotions, we have to the part of this fake world around. And this fake emotions at times we have to show. So she wanted to put that thought away, but she was not able to. So to put that thought away, and that thought here particularly means a thought of the loss of separation, the loss of her mother that's arriving soon. What she did, she looked out at young trees sprinting, the merry children spilling out of their homes, but after the airport security check, standing a few yards away. So what she did, she wanted to brush aside those thoughts, those heavy thoughts on her heart and mind. She looked out at the young trees. Again, the contrast has been shown by the poetess. While she had made mention of the young trees here, she at the same time remembering all the young days of her mother and all the childhood days of herself. She also had seen the merry children, the happy children, they are joyously coming out, rushing out in the field to play around. And childhood is the best phase of life. So another contrast in the poem that we have find here with the old age and the young children. But when they reach at the destination and she is at the airport security check, she was just standing a few yards away from the mother. And what she said, I looked again at her wan, pale, as a late winter moon and felt that old familiar ache. Very important here is the comparison that she has made. She has compared the face of her mother with the late winter's moon. That's cold, and cold is a symbol of death. Cold is the symbol of sadness. So that familiar ache, why familiar ache? Because this ache had already been there. It was always there. right from the childhood. And while she was meeting her after a few months, it has again came back to her. So you understand how beautifully she has compared and she has said that this reality has already been there. It was always there because it is something inevitable. We may brush aside these thoughts. We may want to just come out of this feeling that of loss and separation, but it is inevitable. We can never avoid it. The similar way she is saying here that this familiar ache, and which familiar ache? Losing the mother one day. My childhood's fear. So she complemented with the another term here saying my childhood's fear. So this fear has already been there. It was always there. But what she did not cry. While bidding farewell to her mother, while bidding her goodbye at the end, when she has a thought in her mind whether she would be able to meet her again or not. So she said here, see you soon, Amma. So she bid her goodbye, waving her hand. And what she did at the end, all I did was smile and smile and smile. So that pain, that agony, that anxiousness, that saddening thought, it was all there. But see how she changed those emotions. And the tautology again here, the smile and the smile and the smile. The repetition has been employed here to put the emphasis on the emotion that has been prevailing that time. Why she smiled? She in fact knew it well. She would not be able to meet her again. She would not be able, maybe she would come back and the mother would not be there. She would not be able to embrace her again. So what she could do all, she was so helpless here. And what she could do is, she could just smile towards her mother. And she wanted to show that happy face to her. So it ended with the repetition. While the poetess smilingly, it's ironic here that she was down with that numbness. And how eloquently this idea, this has been bring out here, the transience of life and the passing time. Time as death is inevitable. You cannot bring it back. So it doesn't matter how rich you are. Few things never come back. So it's all about the poem. We move ahead further, we'll discuss about the theme of the poem. What are the poetic elements and focus? What's the mood of the poetess? And what are the important points? The poetic devices used in the poem, the first one is simile. Simile, as you know, is a comparison between two different objects, inanimate things or living things and inanimate things, wherein the words that denotes comparison are used, for instance, as, like, and so. And where do we find simile in the poem is her face ashen like that of a corpse. The secondly, it is there, she was as old as she looked. Also in as a late winter's moon, while she has compared her mother's face with the late winter moon. And why late winter's moon? Because it is cold, and cold symbolizes death. The second poetic device that has been employed by Kamala Das is personification. Personification simply means when we personify something inanimate. And personification you find in young trees sprinting. So the young trees, they have been moving, but they are not moving actually. So you can apply the law of physics here. So it's the movement of the car in the opposite direction, and it seemed to the poetess that the trees were moving, but trees were not moving anywhere. It was the poetess that was moving. It frames also the most important question of the poem, why the trees were sprinting. So not the trees that were sprinting, it was the car that was moving. The third is the metaphor. Metaphor wherein the comparison has been done. So it is another form of simile with the only difference that the words of comparison as, like, and so are not used. So more of it's the direct comparison, and you find it in merry children spilling. And the last one is repetition. Repetition is the repetition of the same word again and again. You should not confuse with the poetic devices repetition and alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of same sound again, right? So repetition is the repetition of the same word again in the same line to create emphasis around. You find repetition in the last line of the poem. All I did was smile and smile and smile. So these are the main poetic devices that has been employed in the poem. The first one is the simile, the second is the personification, the third is the metaphor, and the last one is repetition. Now what's the theme of the poem? What do you think? It would have been clear to you till the time we have almost discussed everything about it. The theme of the poem is aging, advancing age, and also the fear of loss of separation. So these two themes, they are clear to us right from the first two lines of the poem. What's the mood of the poet is here? The poet, she is saddened by the thought that the mother is inching towards death each moment. So you can sum it up as she is agonized about it, she is saddened about the fact. Now as an extrapolator, I have added few synonyms for you all so that you can frame your answers very well pertaining to the poem. And the first synonym that we discuss about is puzzle over. Puzzle over means when you're not able to make a decision, your mind is puzzling about lot many consequences, you have a lot of pre-notion about certain thing. So that's what we mean by puzzle over. The next is wrestle with oneself. Wrestle with oneself again means the same, puzzle over. See, they are synonyms and meaning is the same. The only thing is context. In the different contexts, you will make use of the different word or the phrase. Wrestling oneself means while you're not able to move to a particular decision about something, you have been thinking about it, so do rock one's brain. Means brainstorming a lot about something before you reach to the final conclusion of it. And the easiest one, be worried about. So the poetess, right from the first sentence up to the last, I was smile and smile and smile. She had been saddened by the inevitable fact of life, that is death. Now we quickly revisit some of the important points. I have already made a mention of it that this entire poem is a single sentence that has been punctuated by the commas. So the singularity of the poem itself makes it entirely different and entirely beautiful in its own way. The poem has been written in blank verse. We also call it Shakespearean verse or free verse because it follows no kind of a rhyming scheme at all. The poet's mother, she is inching towards her death. She is closing to the death, and this thought has been paining her right from the childhood. While she met her again, this thought has prevailed her. This thought was killing inside her, and she was watching her mother lumber towards her old age. This poem portrays an agonizing experience of a daughter while she was looking towards her mother who is moving towards the inevitable end of life. So she is deeply saddened by this fact. She is agonized. She is under the effect of it. She has been overtaken up by a terrible numbness wherein she finds it very difficult to hide her emotions. She is agonized by this fact. The whole poem, a single thought interspersed in it, with a single sentence punctuated by commas. So you see how beautiful punctuation is at times. So it's a single thread of thought that prevails in the poem. An eloquent and a poignant verse, definitely. You would agree with me. And it brings out the idea of transience and the passing time. So thanatophobia, that's a fear of death. It prevails in the poem, and how beautifully she weaves around that relationship of the mother and daughter. How she tried it hard to hide those emotions altogether, and how beautifully she had made use of the 4 different poetic devices in the poem. So I hope it would help you all. We're going to revise it once we'll meet face to face. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone.